moving forward. Hey, John.
Yeah.
So I've got, you can see Nancy and Julia here. If you guys have any questions about the finances or about remote learning, those guys are here. And then if it's okay with you towards the end, I know you guys are going to do the Katherine Johnson stuff. I've never been a part of that. I don't know. Are you okay if I'm excused at that time?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if you need anything, let me know, but it's not generally anything I've been a part of.
Yep.
And then, so I guess what you can do is it's part of your agenda. So if you just want to, as long as you stay on that topic, you can adjourn right from that after you guys are done.
Okay.
So,
that sounds good.
Yeah. Thank you, John.
All right. I haven't heard from Jim. I don't know if he's coming or not. He hasn't been on a couple of the other meetings.
Jim,
We got to make sure that we've got Jim. We got to get those papers signed.
Jim emailed me and he said that we might not be able to see him, but to be rest assured he's here, that he has trouble.
Okay. So
with the-
Josh, if you're listening in, if Jim Sawyer is trying to access the meeting, please make sure he gets in. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll let him in.
Thank you.
Do we want to wait a minute or should we just call the meeting to order?
I think you're at 5:02, John. If you want to move forward, you can. It's your call.
All right. We'll call the meeting to order. And I think we have to do a roll call for who's here. So I see Susan is present. Mr. Eisenhower is present. Rhonda, Dr. Gauss, Nancy, Julie, and Ingrid, all present and accounted for. Just missing Jim then.
Yep.
Voucher went out. I've been signing them fast and furious as they go, so keep an eye on that. And then we need approval of the minutes from February 12th and February 26th.
So moved, Ingrid.
Ingrid moved. Do I have a second?
I wasn't here, so I mean, I can second it, but I wasn't at, I mean.
Assume I did them. I'll second.
Any discussion?
John, second.
No discussion. I'll approve. I have to go through the roll to approve. Susan?
Approved.
John?
Approved.
Ingrid?
Approved.
I approve. Is Jim here? I don't think so. Okay. So that's 4 approved. Public comment. Did we get any emails or anything?
John, I'm checking with Selena again, but to my knowledge, nothing to date. But like any other meeting, if we get any public comment, we'll provide it at the next meeting and we'll read it into the record.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you. Rhonda, principal's report.
So we are at 136 students right now. We've been very busy the last few days with the hiring process. Last week we did, and this week we did some special ed interviews, and Mark has a nomination to bring forward to the group for tonight, later on, right, Mark? We did some art interviews last week and we're doing some more tomorrow. We did primary grade interviews on Monday, and I called someone and told them that they are nominated to Mark. He's going to be meeting with them and then he'll bring that person forward if he gives the green light. So that's where we're at with that process, but we couldn't get that done for tonight. And then on Friday, we have administrative assistant interviews.
Hmm.
So it's been a long process. Quite a while ago, Greg and I had come up with a long-range plan, and that's probably not as accurate, but there is a link to it in the principal's report. It was based on before COVID, so it will need some adjusting once we are able to do that, but it's a baseline anyway, and it kind of gets us started with, at least it's a list of some of the things that need to get done around the school. He also sent me just a list of maintenance contractor work that we're looking at getting done. The sprinkler system, there's a leak in the attic space over the gym. That's not a wet leak, it's a dry system. So, but it leaks air, which changes the pressure. And if the pressure gets too low, then the system floods. So we need to get that fixed. I believe that he was going to have somebody come in today to do that, just because it's a sprinkler thing. There's some mechanical services work that needs to get done. There's a pump that needs that gives the false alarm, so we need to get that fixed. So we'll be trying to get that done here as safely and as quickly as we can. There's some security and safety lights that need to get fixed. We are still in the process of updating lights to be the newer lights, the LED lights. So eventually we need to keep working on that. And then there are a couple of places outside that the bricks have shifted and the mortar's coming out, and we need to get those fixed because that's creating leaks inside. So those are all things that are on his radar and he's working on. Susan?
Just wondering, is this, I memean, these mostly sound like maintenance things, but none of them are larger ticket items that should go tack on to our, okay.
Right. No, just, he wanted you guys updated on as to what he's working on.
Good.
Ron, are you all set? Or
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I just wanted to let everybody know that teachers are doing an amazing job with remote learning, and it hasn't been easy on anybody, parents, kids, any of the staff. And I'm so proud of the work that they're doing because it's not easy work, and they're there every day, and they're doing great things.
John, could I just follow up on that just real quickly?
Yeah, please.
Thank you. So I appreciate Rhonda's report. I want to echo her comments, and I'm really, really glad to see all you guys. I've missed everyone. I know it's really hard right now. Everybody's impacted by what we're doing, but I do believe it's making a difference, and that's why we continue to see people be healthy and safe. I want to emphasize that I realize that because we've been out of our loop and the community and board members might not have had regular communications, there's a lot of questions. So I'm glad, and I'm glad we're meeting again. And I want to just suggest that if the board's open to it, we continue to meet through the summer remotely until we can get back to a regular cycle, so we can keep the flow of information going. Going back to our regular board meetings, it strikes me that a lot of people they need information. They should receive information. And with that, I want you and folks to know that I'll be sending something out, an update with some significant pieces in terms of how parents and students can give feedback on remote learning. We recognize it's nowhere near what we were doing before March 13th, but we're always looking to improve. We're always looking for feedback. And so we want to make sure we have conversations with students and parents and staff, and that information will be forthcoming so we can do that before we close out the year. Getting also a lot of questions about fall and what does that look like? And, our goal first and foremost is to get back to returning to school. Everybody wants that. No one more than the students, I'm sure, but we're all looking for that. But with that, there's a bunch of information that we need to process, and we need to make sure that we don't compromise anything we've done to date. So working with Julie and the administrators and the team, and we'll be standing up some folks that are going to be able to process the information from Department of Education, CDC, to make sure that the recommendations we can present to the board are solid all the way around. So I want folks to know that we're working on that, and the information changes daily, and we'll be updating you folks on a regular basis. In addition to that, I know we're going to talk about it shortly. We're very conscious of the times we're in and how that impacts everyone, our families, and we want to work collaboratively with our board. We're going to be talking about finances. I would just say that there are people that want to know what are our savings. I want to emphasize the fact that our schools are not closed. We're just operating remotely. And it's important for the public to know that, yeah, there are definitely going to be some savings, and we can reconcile that and we can show what those were. But there are also some unanticipated costs in the areas of technology, potentially food service, and other areas as we've shifted. So it'll take some time to reconcile that, but no doubt people will be able to get a full overview of what we're doing and not doing. With that, kind of as a precursor, the community of Southwest, the board, everybody's been always supportive strongly of education. We appreciate that. And it doesn't come lightly with us recommending some hard decisions here about new positions and programs. We do that because we're conscious of the times that we're in, but at the same time, we don't want to regress too much. So there are some recommendations that Rhonda has made, that Nancy and I have talked about. People have had the opportunity to weigh in. So I want to make sure that folks know that we're not operating in a vacuum. We continue to try to do the best we can for kids, but we also have to recognize the economic times we're in, and we're conscious of that. I know we're going to talk a little bit about town meeting and how that all unfolds, but I just appreciate, a couple of minutes to kind of cast a net, because we haven't gotten together in quite some time. So thanks, John.
Yep, that sounds good. Rhonda, how did the locker clean out pickup go the other day?
It went very well. Yep. Most everybody got their stuff. We had some families not show up, but we're connecting with them.
Totally missed that.
Getting stuff out to them.
I was
I don't know what's
surprised at how
the
little
locker.
stuff.
I totally missed that.
Round two, John,
I was
round two. Round two.
I was surprised at how little came out of Emery's locker, honestly.
I was just grateful I didn't have a like nasty smoothie jar.
Well, they went through all the lockers that following week and got all the food out. And all
No
the food
biological
out of
hazards.
refrigerators and things, so.
Good. All right. Rhonda, do you have anything else in the principal's report?
No, that's it. You guys have it and have
Okay.
had it for a week, and or that you have read it.
All right. We can move on to discussion don't and the first one there is the budget.
So John, if I may, I don't know if you guys have questions on town meeting, because the only information I have right now is it's been postponed. We don't have a successor date, but I do know that, the draft budget we put together, I felt was pretty solid, and I appreciated the support of the school committee, but I think given the times we're in, we might want to review some of those items, and Nancy and I and Rhonda are prepared to answer any questions you might have.
Okay.
We do have a date. It's July 13th, if they can figure it out.
If they can figure it out.
Yeah, I
So,
think they have to be conscious of the fact that even though you set a date, folks have to be conscious of the fact that there's going to be a restriction on the public, 50 or less. In addition to that, 50 or less, and again, I don't know how you determine who the 50 are or are not, or whether you do multiple events, but we also have to maintain social distancing. And again, our schools are closed right now, but we want to work to make sure that it's a public facility so we can do whatever we can to safely hold meetings. But I did forward to the board and to the town managers some information from Maine School Management and legal counsel in terms of how town meetings may be able to be accomplished given the situation we're in. So hopefully that'll be taken into consideration.
They
Okay.
discussed it last night and threw up their hand because the guidelines are pretty impossible. So they're still thinking about it.
so,
Yeah.
Mark and Matt and I met relative to the high school yesterday, and one of my suggestions was to reach out to the towns about the possibility of utilizing the high school. So, you could have 50 people in the gym. You could have, you know what I mean? There's ways to navigate this in a building of that size. So I think, Mark, if you can reach out to all of them, sooner rather than later, that at least gives them something to chew on as a possibility of how to navigate this.
Will do.
It seems like the best option I can think of because it's the largest space on the island
Yeah.
Yes.
for doing that. I mean, each person has to take up 36 square feet or something, right? So
Well, and we may find that by July, that 50 number may have changed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so even if it doesn't, you could still have 50 people in various places there and navigate a town meeting. I mean, if we're lucky, if we get 120 in Southwest, and it's probably roughly that number in the rest of the communities, so, or less than that.
Yeah, and that's not in the middle of the summer either. I mean, the middle of the summer, I imagine you're going to get even less.
just imagine,
So
I gotta believe somebody in some town somewhere is gonna throw up a constitutional challenge to keeping people out of town meetings when capping it at 50 somewhere.
Because they won't get to vote.
So to that point, if I may, John,
Yep.
one of the questions that comes up is, so, hopefully we will have the meeting, we'll pass a budget. The question is, I receive quite often is, what if we don't have town meeting, or what if we don't pass a budget? So in the event that doesn't occur, and ultimately we do have to pass a budget, but until the time when June 30th comes and July 1st ticks off, that's our new fiscal year. If we don't have a budget in place for whatever period of time, we maintain our FY20 operating budget. Now, some people would say, oh, okay, you have a budget. That's going to present significant problems for schools. And I would dare say municipalities as well, and any other entity, because turning the page means that you have to honor your contractual agreements, your insurance rates, your fuels, your food costs. That delta, the differential, is going to be a challenge. So I just want everybody to bear that in mind. I know the town managers know that, but it will be a challenge if we don't pass a successor budget, not just for Southwest, but for all of our communities, the AOS, the high school, the 11 cost centers that we operate budgets in.
So this latest budget that Nancy sent out, that includes the 6% increase in the Blue Cross Blue Shield, the savings in heating oil, and then the contracted salary increases, but pretty much nothing else.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Nancy. It also includes, we eliminated the pre-K program.
Right.
And we also recommended eliminating any new positions or programs. I would like to say that wasn't without some pain. Those are not wants, those are needs. But again, we're recognizing the times we're in. So this iteration does reflect the removal of the recommendation for pre-K. That was also consistent with what we did in Tremont. And also all the support pieces that were in place, the social emotional supports, any new positions outside of special education. Is that correct, Nancy?
Yes, there was the special ed, I think there was an ed tech in yours. But all the other additional items were removed. And then Rhonda, she can speak more to, she did some tweaking here and there too with on some items.
Where are we at with our bus purchasing?
We're gonna wait till next year for that. The timeline was different than what we had thought when Nancy went to, Nancy, you can speak to this better than I can.
Yeah, in fact, I think I just put it in my box to take home here. It was basically on Southwest. I think it wasn't old enough compared to what, it needed another year. And I think the mileage was, I don't remember if the mileage was right up there or not, but yeah, it didn't get one of the parameters. So instead of going forward, we'll wait another year, which Rhonda agreed was fine to do.
So there was some cost savings relative to that in this budget?
Yeah, when we had talked earlier in the year, we decreased the
Okay.
bus savings,
Oh, the reserve.
the reserve account, yeah.
Okay, we had already done that.
We kind of thought we would split it between this coming year and the year after and save a little money in each budget. I would say that one of the things when I was going through with Nancy that I didn't notice is that we aren't buying that bus. So there's I shared a spreadsheet a little while ago with everyone that other areas we might cut from, and then an explanation of the changes that Nancy and I had made. One of the things that when we had gone through that isn't reflected in here is that there's $11,000 in this budget for bus cameras, but we wouldn't want to put bus cameras in a bus that we're only going to keep for a year. So that's $3,500 that we could take out that isn't reflected on this. And if we have to wait another year to be able to put bus cameras in, that's $11,000 that we could save. I would, going through and doing the spreadsheet, one of the things that I had taken out a couple of weeks ago was we had talked about moving Sonia or a position from a part-time to a full-time, which is a difference of $5,000 from ed tech to teacher. I'd much rather put that back in and take out bus cameras. She's this person has dedicated so much to Pematic and she deserves that.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Rhonda.
And then the other thing that I would put back in is the PACE program. That's been super amazing for people, for the students who it impacted. And we piloted it this past year. It's a new program, but with the stipends and the activity part of it, that's $7,200 that I'd want to put back in. So with the bus cameras, it's not quite an even swap out, but it's pretty close to it.
Have you maintained the PACE program through the remote learning?
Yes.
That's good.
Yes, to the degree that those students want to be involved.
Right.
Fair enough. Anybody want to, I don't know, I'd be interested in moving that retirement piece in rather than stripping it.
Well, Mark, what's happening with that relative to all the other schools? The retirement piece, or Nancy?
Nobody
in
else has
short-
put that in the budget except for the AOS.
That's right. It's all over the board.
Okay.
And, as a result of budget processes and where individual communities were at and their priorities, that's it. AOS and Southwest at this point. Everybody sees the value in it, but people are in different places.
Hmm.
It's a group bucket, right? It's not just serving the employees of Southwest. Is that right?
Say again, John, excuse me.
A bucket, a group bucket for the whole AOS. It's not, our contribution isn't just for Southwest employees.
No, the way that we proceeded is we made the proposal and it was to be determined at each local budget. And we would participate as a pool, but the pool is determined by how many people would like to participate. So yes,
Well,
we'll do it as,
but-
I'm sorry.
Well, but what's in the AOS budget is budgeted for AOS employees
Correct.
in your
Yes.
central office. So what would be in this budget would be for Southwest Harbor support staff that don't currently get retirement.
Correct.
So
That's
it's the
correct. Yes.
Dempseys and whomever else falls into that category. So
Right.
I guess my thought would be, you've got some people at the AOS office who have been working in that office for decades, and that I can justify that on one level and be okay with not funding Southwest because none of the other schools are funding their retirement in this current environment, and the staff hasn't been there nearly as long as some of the AOS staff. So I can go either way on it, but I think the closer we can be to zero, the better off we're going to be. And I don't want somebody to see that retirement line and be like, are you kidding me? I'm not even getting a paycheck right now. And we're worrying about adding retirement into the school budget, which is coming out of everybody's pockets. I don't know that that would feel good for anybody, but.
How much is it? Do we know what page that's on of the budget?
It's $12,000.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And John, if I may too, the AOS board hasn't given me any directions with regard to that. Not, even though our budget was quote unquote passed, all the AOS budget isn't finalized until all the town budgets are. So, we're not under any assumptions that we have the green light to do anything until all the towns have passed their budgets.
Okay. So do we need to take any action on this tonight on the where it stands? I guess we would need to have Nancy, if we were in agreement,
Can someone, I had one question about the stipends. What is emergency aid and what did I miss on that?
Yeah, that's someone to basically help with when I'm not in the building, or it's a second position for that, because sometimes the person who's doing that job right now, both of us are out of the building. That person would also work with middle school students on behavior, and if there were any low-level disciplinary pieces that needed to be taken care of, they'd also be doing detention with students.
So that it's one position that's making it jump that 12,000
No, it's
it's
2,500.
Oh.
The emergency aid is 2,500.
oh, okay. But the whole stipend line is up.
Well, part of that is that, as we move from year to year, there are increases because of experience or.
Okay. It just seemed bigger than I remember. I feel like I've asked this and maybe I've gotten it, and if I have, I'm sorry, but have we had a breakdown of our stipends lately? And I still don't really know the process or the formula. I feel like it.
I'm pretty sure we went through them all.
What's
Not
that?
too long. I'm pretty sure we went through them all not too long ago when we
Okay.
were
Might have
early
been.
in the budget. Am I right or wrong?
Not this year, we haven't. I feel
Okay.
like it's been, I think you're remembering it from maybe doing the minutes, but I feel like it's been a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I think I'm thinking about the new stipends
Yeah.
that we were discussing. Okay.
we can, and given if there's any questions, we can give a complete list of what those stipends are, the breakdown, and if you folks have any questions about that, we can follow up. What I might suggest, John, along with that, you asked the question, do we need to take any action? The short answer is yes, but I don't think it needs to be immediate. I mean, if the board wants to wait, process this information, if there's any follow-up information, I would say the sooner we get a recommendation or an update to the town, the better off we are. I don't know if articles have been printed or any of that, but it goes without saying, we're probably looking at adjustments on the town floor. Is that correct, Nancy?
Most likely, yes.
So given that, I would recommend the school committee look, we provide any information. If there's any questions about any of the potential recommendations, and then maybe within a week or a week and a half or whatever the board would like, we meet again, and then you could take action. Just a suggestion, so you don't feel pressured into doing it tonight. But I would say within the next 2 weeks, it would be important to do so.
Okay. Ingrid,
Do we have, so I'm looking at I'm gonna go back to stipends for a second. The current budget and the anticipated expenditures. If we didn't have spring sports happening, shouldn't we be seeing a savings from spring sports stipends?
So you will see in all of our stipend lines, Ingrid, that's a great question. What we have done to date from high school, and this is consistent across the board, the question of stipends is going to come up for the fall in terms of what do we do. For the spring, we did move forward with our stipends and the release of those. And the reason I did that, I asked Bunky and all the principals to ensure what these coaches and advisors were doing. And they were maintaining contact. There are logs, and I can provide that information to the board. And that's why we moved forward with those.
All right, so I think that's a bigger question at the AOS level for the fall. If we don't have fall sports, we
Yep.
should, I mean,
No
like,
question.
I wouldn't have supported that. Not that I'm one of 25-ish, but that to me is, yeah, anyway, so.
No, I understand. And we were in a situation where we're moving forward consistent with what we did with all employees, but we were under no assumptions that was going to extend out into the fall.
I
and
mean, a
beyond.
lot of those coaching positions are not employees. They're external people that that to me is a different animal. So
Yep,
I
I just
think
want to emphasize that's
yeah, no, I know, but if we
across the
could,
entire AOS.
yeah, I'm sure, but I think that we're going to need to have that conversation at the AOS level.
Agreed. And that's not just coaches. That'll be for all of our stipends and all of our activities.
All right, so we will get it. Can we get a list then? We can? Okay.
Can I talk a little bit about a couple of other areas that I found that we could cut just a little bit?
please.
I talked with Sonia and the DARE program. Probably won't be happening next year just because of some other things that have been put into her curriculum, I believe, if I understood her correctly. So that's a savings of $750. And then Julie, if I'm right, you have funds to pay for C-Camp. You pay for C-Camp usually out of a grant that you have. No, okay. Well, it's slated to
No,
take
but I
place
can
in,
look for money if that's necessary.
it usually takes place in October. We're scheduled to go mid-October, and I can't imagine if, it's hard to say.
I
if we're
don't
gonna
think
be-
it's gonna be happening, but
Exactly. That's-
I couldn't guarantee that. But no, I've paid for floating classroom.
Oh, okay, that's the one that I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
But I guess with Sea Camp, with mid-October, I find it highly unlikely that we're gonna be able to do that. And that's a savings of 1,900. And we also have, we talked about this a little bit and then it didn't get adjusted. The advertising is still at 4,000. And we talked about reducing that by quite a bit and advertising in a different way on serving schools and more as an AOS rather than individual schools. So I think that we could probably at least cut that in half.
Yeah. There's a kindergarten screening ad for MDES that's been running weekly for quite a while. And it's
Yeah.
a sizable ad. And so, yeah, we did talk about having a generic ad that runs telling people to look someplace for, postings within the district, because that's a chunk of change.
Yeah.
Mark, have any of the boards talked about cutting board member stipends?
That has not come up to date, John.
What's happening with summer school? We've got a $7,000 line item here for that.
So Julie, please weigh in. But right now, our summer programming for special education, extended school year, and other summer programming, the guidance we're receiving for DOE and consistent with what we're doing, any programming we're considering right now is remote. We've not been given the green light to return. Julie, go ahead.
Yeah, well, so it'll all be remote, but what we're looking at is expanding because we know there's social emotional, we know there's more slide. And so paying more people potentially by the hour instead of trying to get people to commit to the big chunks of time so people can be working with the kids who they have been supporting. I think it's a good model. I think we're going to try to also do some cross-school support for K2 for reading math, for 3-4 reading math, and for middle school reading math. Because of that, I think you may be looking at spending that.
Okay, and so we have 7,000 in there. Do you feel like that's enough?
Well, I just asked Nancy to give me the amounts from each of the buildings, and we're having a meeting tomorrow where we're going to be fleshing out that model. If it was possible to make any cuts, I think the only thing we'd really want to be cautious about, I don't think it would save you that much, is I guess what I would say. I mean, I think it's possible that it would be less by maybe 1,000.
You don't feel like you need more than the 7?
No, I think the 7 is going to be used though, is my sense, but I'm not 100% sure because families will have the opportunity to opt in or not. Some families are done with remote learning.
That 7,000 also covers morning learning lab throughout the school year.
Okay.
Okay.
Does that mean that those students will keep their computers for the summer?
All computers are going to be given back because we have to make sure that they're all in good working condition and re-registered and cleaned. Right. Then students who are getting summer services, whether those are participating in remote book clubs or whether those are remote meetings, one-on-one or one-on-two, will get devices if they need them in order to participate in those activities and also to participate on some, to have access to some online practice kinds of applications if that makes sense for that student. So the programs for students are going to be pretty individualized. But the tech team knows they have to do a quick turnaround so that students who need that ongoing tech support get it.
Okay. So what are we thinking? Do we want to give Nancy some direction to make some of these changes that we've talked about? I think the big three that Rhonda had talked about were, I think it was Sonia, right? Going from ed tech to teacher or additional hours
Mhm.
was 5K. But taking out the cameras for the bus and then adding pace, which was 7.2K, which would bump things up 1.2. But we probably will be able to get that back from cutting DARE and assuming the kids don't go to C camp, and then advertising cut in half.
Mhm.
Does that make sense to everybody?
The retirement question. Right.
The retirement question looms.
I mean, I'll, you know, I think our employees deserve to have it, but obviously, understand that we might need to set that aside in this environment. So I'm just thinking of a couple of them. I don't know how long they've got before retirement.
Yeah, I think it's a tough one, but personally, I think I'm kind of with Ingrid that we have to make it look as diligent as possible for sure.
And I agree.
Okay. All right, so maybe if we get those changes and then I guess we wait until we get those changes and then we might have to meet again. Mark?
Nancy, I just want to make sure, so the social, emotional, and the pre-K, is that all?
Yes, those are already out.
I want to make sure, so the board took action on that?
No,
So I think whenever, right, that was my point. So along with any of the things that the board is considering looking at, when they do decide to take action, I just want to make sure they have the whole thing in total. They were looking at that draft budget, but I want to make sure that all of those pieces are reflected so that they can see it,
right.
the select board can see it, and then ultimately the town. Thank you.
The budget that I sent to you had pre-K taken out. It had the behavior specialist and the retirement. The only thing that was left in on the additional items was the special ed tech.
Right.
So I might recommend, John, that there's some research we have to do on stipends and
Yeah.
there might be some other things that the board wants to look at or people have information, but we could schedule a meeting just for whatever you want. But if it's one item, it wouldn't take long, and then it'll give us time to give you folks the information that you need.
Okay. That sounds good.
We can do it a week from now, whatever you want. We can do a doodle poll, but it's easy to set up.
Okay. That sounds good. We'll see how long it takes to get that information and then we can go from there. I'm fine with a week from now, but see goes. Did anybody have anything else for the budget?
Yeah, are there any, if you have any other, please email us if you have any other questions or you want any other information, and we'll get that to you in advance of the meeting.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, we can move on to action items. The first one, nomination and election of probationary teachers.
Yes. Rhonda makes this, it's kind of like Nancy, makes it easy for me to do because she puts it into a nice spreadsheet and it's all color coded. It's like, it's good stuff. All right. So I'm happy to do these individually or as a slate. Rhonda, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have no probationary year 3 teachers and no probationary year 2 teachers. So the
Correct.
individuals that I'm prepared to nominate are all in their first year of probation, correct?
Correct.
All right. So I have three individuals. John, would you like me to just give the overview of the three and I'll take any questions you have? Is that
Yep,
okay?
and then we can move it as a slate. I think we usually do
Okay.
that.
Sure. So the first individual I have is Chelsea McCurdy. Chelsea is serving as a special education teacher. She's done a great job. I want to remind the board, not the board, but the community, that what our process is when we hire these folks, we invest in them, and that investment is a two-way street. They're invested in us, we invest in them, and so they are evaluated. All these folks have been evaluated. We do observation. They're provided support through mentors, and it's in short a continuous improvement cycle. Just to take it right from Julie. Right now, our process is we have a 3-year probationary period by statute in the state of Maine. For the longest time, it was 2 years. Now that it's gone to a 3-year period, but the legislature is moving back and rolling that back to 2 years. So I guess what I would say is I think that's unfortunate for our teachers and for folks, because a 3-year period probationary, I think, is better on both sides of the aisle because it allows us to give feedback and it allows them to grow and improve. But in short, these folks are in that cycle. So Chelsea joined us this fall, doing a nice job in special education. In addition, I have Kate Kolpakova. Kate is a speech language pathologist. She is also in her first year. And we had a hire later in the year. That's Jeffrey Wood as our math interventionist. And Jeffrey was just getting his feet wet in the school, but I still have to include Jeff in this cycle, even though it's been a short period. But I'm very pleased to nominate all three of those individuals and take any questions you might have. They're nominated for a second year of probationary status.
Okay. Ingrid?
So how does that work when you have a teacher that comes in towards the middle or end of a school year? I mean, they haven't really completed a year with you. So do they get like they get to come in as if it's a full year through
The
this
short
process?
answer is yes.
Wowza.
Yes.
Okay, so then
That's
are
the short
all
answer.
three, so they're going to year 2. Now that the legislature has changed this to 2 years, does that mean that at the end of next year, we're making a decision about whether we own them and they own us for, okay.
Correct. We have a shorter,
Wow.
let's say we have a shorter courtship. We're going to have to
That
determine
seems so
if that's
ridiculous.
a good match on both sides of the aisle, and it's a 2-year process now by law.
Okay, so I just will say, I thought the 3-year process was so much better. So I just, everybody involved on your side of the thing of this, we just want to make really, really sure that we're really, really happy with everybody at the end of next year, going to year 3, if that's what you guys are recommending, which I know you'll do, but I just feel the need to say it anyway.
Right. It's a rigorous process, and I haven't gotten into the spreadsheet Rhonda has, but in short, I'm very comfortable and very confident in nominating these folks. I would not do so if I wasn't. They have many strengths, but there's also areas for growth for each of them that they'll work with Rhonda and her team on.
Is the speech language pathologist full-time?
Mhm.
John, do you have a question?
Yeah, just Rhonda, if you wouldn't mind emailing me all their names so I get the spelling right for the minutes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Or in the agenda, or
Look
in
at
that
the
email
agenda.
from Selena.
I
Yeah,
remember seeing it. and I don't see them anymore.
They're in the email that Selena sent with the Zoom meeting link.
I
Oh,
can
yeah, there were
forward it
2
to
of them.
you.
It's probably the other one. Okay, thank you.
They're in the bottom.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, any other discussion on the slate?
Did we get a motion?
Not yet.
Okay. Ingrid will move the slate from year 1 to year 2.
Okay,
Second,
Susan seconds. Any discussion? All right, we'll vote. Susan,
Aye.
John,
Yes.
Ingrid,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. Okay. Moving on, authorization for superintendent to apply for and receive state and federal funds.
So, John, if I may, this is a housekeeping item. It's something that the boards do annually. In order for the superintendent to be able to apply and receive funds, I need board authorization. And the second piece to this will be, as you know, in an AOS, we tend to do things, or we do things usually 11 times because we have 11 different boards. But in this instance, we're able to do a consolidated application. That's a good thing. And that consolidated application will allow one of our communities, and that being Bar Harbor, first in the alphabet, to serve as the fiscal agent. I just want to emphasize, even though they're the fiscal agent for accounting purposes, all of the monies that Southwest is eligible for are received by Southwest. They're not used by the AOS or any other community. Thank you.
All right. Can we move both of those at once?
I would recommend, John, that you do a separate vote on each one, please.
Okay. Okay.
I move to authorize the superintendent to apply for and receive state and federal funds.
And Susan, we have a second.
Second, Ingrid.
Ingrid seconds. Any discussion? Call the roll. Susan,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Ingrid.
Yes.
I vote yes as well. And then we need a motion for the next one to authorize Bar Harbor to be the fiscal agent for the funds.
So moved, Ingrid.
Second.
Got a second, Susan. Call the roll. Susan,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Ingrid,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. Moving on, appointment of truant officer, attendance officer, and school physician.
So I move that Rhonda Fortin be the attendance officer, Alan Brown be the truant officer, and Dr. Tanya Hankey be the school physician. Ingrid.
All right. Do we have a second?
Surprise.
Susan seconds. Any discussion? Call the roll. Susan,
Approve.
John,
Approved.
Ingrid,
Approve.
I approve as well. Moving on, consideration of Harbor House request for use of school bus. Yeah, Mark.
Just sorry to interrupt. I just had a question. Rhonda,
Mhm.
did we not have our special education nominee on this agenda?
No, because
Okay, so
Wait.
we're gonna do the special education and the grade 3 at the same time. Is that correct?
no, we talked about doing the special ed tonight.
Right, I don't see it on the agenda. So that's my point. If I
Can you
might,
do it under other business?
well, I would just like to respectfully request to the chair that we do an adjustment to the agenda so I can present a nomination for that special ed position. And if we could do it after the school bus, if the board's okay with that, I'd appreciate it. I apologize for not having that. If the board's not comfortable with that, I could do it at the next meeting, but I apologize. I didn't catch that in the agenda. And that will allow you to continue with your Katherine Johnson conversation.
Okay.
I'm sorry for that.
I'm okay with that. Do we need a motion to adjust the agenda?
You do technically, and just the motion would be to allow the superintendent to present a nomination for a special education position. Thank you.
All right. Susan moves. Do we have a second?
Second, Ingrid.
Ingrid second. Any discussion? Call the roll. Susan,
Approve.
John,
Approved.
Ingrid,
Yes.
I approve as well.
Thank you very much. I apologize for that. I
All
appreciate
right.
it.
So We'll
I
do
know
the bus.
person we're nominating will appreciate it as well. Thank you.
So we'll do the bus first and then we'll go to that. So Harbor House request for use of school bus.
I would just, as an overview, this is a request that we receive annually. We have a great relationship with Harbor House and other entities, and this is something that we've done annually, but in order for us to allow for Harbor House to use the bus in the summer for programming, that would need to be approved by the board. I don't know if Rhonda, you want to add anything, and if Ingrid would like to add anything, and I think probably Ingrid will recuse herself from the vote.
Yep. Did you have a question, John?
I'm 100% in favor of Harbor House using the school bus. However, I have to ask the question. State guidelines for day camps haven't been released yet. And we're operating under the assumption that school buses are going to be off limits for day camps. So it just, does that put us in a weird position if Harbor House goes ahead and uses the bus?
Well,
Can I respond?
Of course.
go ahead, Ingrid. I'm sorry. I was going to give
If there are guidelines that prohibit the use of buses or transporting children in any way, then we won't be able to use the bus. So that's going to dictate, but
Of course.
I'm, yeah, whatever.
that would be my recommendation.
It doesn't matter. What?
Subject to the, if the board is in, if the board does consider approving this, it's subject to adherence to state, federal, and health guidelines.
Yeah, I think we can put that in the motion and, yeah.
Yeah, so the only thing that I put it in here, Pematic has used up until the time that we stopped having kids in schools, Pematic has used our minibuses fairly frequently this year to transport the PACE kids, and then there were a number of different other things. So it oftentimes it ends up being a wash that, we keep track of mileage during the school year, we keep track of mileage in the summer, and we calculate the difference. And oftentimes it's a wash, sometimes it isn't, but then whoever has more mileage pays accordingly. But I think it's been a good relationship thus far. So yeah, there we go.
All right. Are there any other questions? Do we have a motion?
Oh, so moved.
All right. Okay.
I also don't feel like we need to put the wording in about guidelines. I think
I'll put it in the minutes.
they would have to follow laws either way.
Yeah. Can't be a scofflaw. Just throw the kids on there.
They have to use their turn signals. Yeah.
All right. Any discussion? I'll call the roll. Susan?
Approve.
John?
Approved.
Ingrid?
Abstaining.
And I approve. You got a bus if you can use it. All right, so we'll go to the added agenda item, Mark, for the recommendation.
Yes, John, thank you, and board, thank you. I apologize, I didn't catch that, but I'm pleased to nominate Hannah Worrell for special education position at Pematic. Hannah is no stranger to our community. Hannah holds a degree from the University of Iowa in English, and she's presently enrolled in a master's program in special education. And we'll have special education certification, K-8, and also general education certification, which I believe is really going to be a positive for her in the SUN program, students with unique needs. She is currently working in the Ellsworth School Department as an ed tech, has been in a sunroom program there for 2 years, has served as a counselor at Camp Beechcliff, did 4 years there. So she's very familiar with our community, and I was very impressed with the interview I did with her, because she definitely wanted to be on the island. She definitely wanted to be in Southwest. She had done her research, and this was where she focused. And, I don't normally do this, but I will because I think you folks are all familiar and have great respect, not only for our current principal, but the former principal, Kathy Lewis, who's the principal of where she's working now. And, Kathy is just the salt of the earth and has never steered me wrong. And she said, her recommendation was glowing, and Rhonda followed up with that. So I'm very pleased to nominate Hannah, and I think she'd do a great job and be a great fit for our children. Pleased to take any questions you might have.
All right.
I can't recommend her enough. She's fantastic.
Good. Susan, did you have a question?
No, I had an itch.
Oh, gotcha. All right. So do we have a motion?
I move that we hire Hannah Worrell. I don't know if I said that correctly, for the special ed teaching position.
I'll second that.
Susan seconds. Any discussion? I'll call the roll. Susan?
Approve.
John?
Approve.
Ingrid?
Approve.
And I approve as well.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to Hannah. That's going to be a great addition to a great staff.
Awesome.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Hannah, if you're listening, welcome from all of us.
Welcome.
John, at this point, I'd just like to see, I know you're moving on to one other item, but Julie's here, Nancy's here. Were there any things that you had for either of us, any of us, before you move on to your Katherine Johnson discussion?
I don't have anything. Does anybody else have anything pressing?
So we'll just circle back, John, to when you'd like to hold your next meeting on budget deliberations, and
Okay.
appreciate your time and flexibility. Thank you so much. It's great to see you guys.
Yep, you too.
I think Julie and Nancy and I are gonna depart, and then you'll close out after you're done with Katherine Johnson, correct?
Yes.
A quick question.
Yes.
Actually,
If any of the other teacher positions are ready for nomination when we meet on the budget, can we go ahead with those as well?
Yes, that would be my plan. I will have at least one nomination for you. Yes, absolutely, John. Thank you.
Okay. Susan, did you have something quick?
no, sorry.
Okay.
Thank you. It's great to see all you guys, and
Thank you.
really appreciate your support. And if you have anything else, just let us know. We're here.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good evening.
You too.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Trying to get my Katherine Johnson spreadsheet open.
Yeah, I thought it would be a little easier for us to tackle this with that.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that.
Was
Yeah,
that Olazi one in your spreadsheet, Ingrid?
I think it's the rhythm and movement one, isn't it?
There were two of them, I think.
Yeah, there are two.
Hi, excuse me, John.
Oh.
Is this something that should still be streamed? The rest of this meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Part
a
of the
public.
We did.
Public.
Okay, just want to make sure we're not executive session or anything.
No.
Okay,
Thanks for asking.
thank you.
Yep.
Well, I have 15. Aren't there 15 grants?
I'm all mixed up. Too many tabs.
I think the Find the Groove one with Ed was another one that Bo was doing, and then Rhythm and
Okay, I
Yeah.
just got confused then.
Yeah, I just didn't, at the end of it, I was trying to scramble and get it done, and I was like, who's the school person? So it's not, whatever. It is what it is. in
Yeah,
terms
the
of-
rhythm and movement and the Find the Groove are Bo Lacey.
Okay.
So just to clarify, sorry, I'm like now trying to find the groove, haha. So we have 30,000 in grants and we're looking to spend 25, is that correct?
As far as my understanding, we had 23,000 in the fund and then 2,000 coming back from unused funds from this year.
Okay.
Is there,
2,000.
and there, we
Nancy-
presume there's no rules about unused funds from the carryover?
Rhonda?
Nancy did email me today. She said there's 21,000 in a CD that was from prior years. However, if we spend all but 2,000 of this year's award, we will have a checkbook balance of 22,000 to go towards the next round. We have a
Wait,
monthly allotment.
If we
Mhm.
spend all but what? Oh, from last year.
Yep. So then, and then there's a monthly allotment of from May to December of 15,000. So there's 37,000 in the checkbook, which will be used to fund this next round. We could use a bit more of the old funds. However, we don't want to deplete it too much. Use a bit each year if you have awards that you really want to fund, she said.
Okay.
Okay, so does that mean we have $35,000 available without touching that old fund balance?
There's 37,000 in the checkbook.
I'm confused.
Okay, but I guess okay, so there's the checkbook and the CD?
I don't think so.
Well,
I don't think so. I think there's 37,000 available, but she's saying don't deplete it completely. But there's,
Okay, so are we thinking?
We don't
Susan,
even need to have a discussion.
do you have your packet from last year handy?
Yeah, well, I also made, do you remember I made that template for Nancy that we could have her fill out? Let me see if I can find it.
I'm just wondering if you have any notes from how much we used out of that, I'm gonna call it a reserve fund, right? From prior year balances
Yeah.
number. Because I'd be curious what we ended last year's balance with. I seem to think that we spent like $4,000 to $5,000 or $4,000 to $6,000. We have pulled out the last couple of years out of that.
I'm gonna email this to you. I just found it. So, and then I've got to look at it. Okay, so what this says was the interest gained in the trust last year was $21,333. The checking plus CD balance totals are around 60. And the requests were 40. So we have been basically spending the interest gain trust to try, we've been pulling the CD balance down over the years because we keep paying more than we gain in interest. So I guess that's the question. We had a lighter year. It's been 24,000 for the 3 previous years. I didn't add what we ended up funding. So we have been aiming, I would say, over the years to spend interest plus an average of 8,000. And that slowly ticking our total balance down. So last year, the total was roughly 60. So this would be 58.
Okay,
That's
so in theory then, if you took the she's saying 21 plus 8, we're at 29,000.
Yeah.
Where are we doing the 8?
Well,
Oh,
you said
what I
we're
was
pulling
saying.
8, yeah, from the
Yeah.
other
That's
one.
the difference.
So,
And that wouldn't even include then if we did get 2,000 back.
right,
Right.
okay,
Okay.
well,
That makes this very easy. I will say one of my comments that I had just to stand out, and I think, this not having to make this decision is, it's a great aspect of this gift. We don't have to make this decision and we can give these kids everything. But I will say you know, a lot of the grade specific things are obviously pretty easy to track for those kids who experienced it, and they experienced it once and good for them. And then the next class follows. The visiting authors and illustrators, I think, is an amazing thing. My kids have loved being a part of it, but there are a lot of those kids that are getting that experience 3 times in K-2. So I just, you know, and then there wasn't any information on rhythm and movement. I don't know. Do you want, I guess I don't.
No,
need to comment, but
I think you had your comment about the visiting authors. I mean, we have said in the past that we want details about what the expenses are, and some people have provided the detail, but others haven't provided anything. And the rhythm and movement, like, it doesn't say how often they're meeting. It doesn't say, you know what I mean? Like, we need,
Yeah.
I think this year we're lucky that we can fund everything, but I think going forward, I feel like we had a list of, like, here's what you need to provide us in your grant proposal, and we're sliding away from that sometimes. And I think we need to reiterate that you guys need that, because when you're sitting here doing this next year, you're going to need that information.
Yeah. John?
I'm not comfortable just saying, okay, we got enough money, let's prove them all. That rhythm and movement one is the second most expensive. We don't have the detail we wanted, and it's touching almost the least number of kids.
Yeah, I don't understand the 5 to 15. Do you know anything about
What
this?
is it?
No,
Right.
I don't know. I mean,
Well, I mean, I can get on board with not, I mean, I don't have a problem. I mean, that's the one that stuck out to me as not having any information.
Right.
Spending $3,000 if it's 5 kids, no.
Yeah.
can't, I'm gonna find out what we spent last year.
And then I have a question for you, Rhonda.
Mhm.
All the Bob Sattler ones, the after-school programs, we don't know how many kids will go, and presumably a school staff member has to go. This can't just go and be Bob Sattler's parent.
No, that's not accurate, because we've funded Harbor House programs before, and there's no school
Good-
staff person.
Good point. Good point.
And, you know, we've done any number of external, you know, we've
Yeah,
supported,
Seal Cove Auto Museum and
yeah, so,
the basketry class is for 8 kids, stained glass is for 8, and the beginning woodworking is for 6.
And he's doing those all at his barn, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
and so my question would be, I think it's great that they're gonna have these options and that they can ride the bus and go there. My question would be, if you don't have 8 kids, right? Or whatever, if you have some proportion of the total amount, right? So right now, 8 kids for basketry is 1,700.
Mhm.
If you only had 5 kids, is this amount being prorated or not? I don't know the answer to that.
I would say
It's-
time-wise, he's gonna be spending the same amount of time teaching 5 than he is teaching 8. There might be a little bit of savings with materials, but that's
Well,
probably gonna be nominal.
would we want to be setting a minimum participation number? Because again, I mean, if
Yeah.
you're saying that 3,000, you know, if it were 5 kids, we don't feel comfortable with that, with the rhythm and movement, that, you know, I mean, I know that he typically, at least when my kids were there, and I can't imagine it's any different, that most of these classes fill up and then it's not even a question, so.
Yep.
There is a little tiny bit of project narrative for the movement one. It just says teaching and engaging students in creative movement with authentic rhythm using hand drums.
Yeah, but is this after school? Is it during school? Is it 10 sessions? Is it 2 sessions? I don't know if you want to text Steve and if he can provide you with any information before we finish the meeting, but
Yeah, it says dates of events, March 8th, 21 to March 19th, 21.
yeah,
Okay,
All the rest of them are pretty detailed and
Yeah,
is what they're doing and budget breakdowns and stuff. That's good.
so I can't remember the Pematic Drama Club. Weren't we at one point going to put that as a program or something? And
no,
then
there's two or three of these that we were going to put into the budget, but then with the
Yeah.
budget cycle, the way that it was, we pulled them out, I think in January,
Yeah.
and told
did.
people that they needed to apply again for
Okay.
one more year.
Got it. Okay.
We keep trying, but the budget
Yeah.
keeps getting cut.
Yeah.
But we can try again next year.
Along with that, is there anything here that would be a normal stipend thing that, no, I guess not. I was reading them over. I was just wary of anybody double dipping.
Mary Lyman and the drama were the ones that have, and now we've seen the visiting authors for how many years now. So if that's going to be part of the curriculum, I fully support it. But, our purpose was to have things not just sit here every year, so that we gave the kids a rotating list of offerings.
Yeah. The Japan thing with Atsuko is a recurring one as well. That's been going on for.
Yeah, that was another one that we had tried to put in the budget, but we pulled it out.
Okay.
So on the Find the Groove one, which is number 11, so it's towards the back of the pile. It says we plan up to 10 drumming sessions with 1 or 2 groups of students. So, I mean, that's a little, up to leaves you from 1 to 10, right? So I feel like we would want to say maybe that there's an expectation that there's at least 8 sessions or something like that. Does that make sense? I mean,
Yeah.
Again, it says, up to 22 kids. Would you want to have a minimum?
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I would think so. I mean, I would
I
think,
kind of got the sense of that one was during the school day, right? That was an
Yeah.
activity period or something?
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Okay.
because it's saying best scheduling opportunities.
I think it's prudent to set minimum
Yeah.
participation for these things.
Yeah, it
Mm.
says possibilities could include middle school activity period, grade 4 class, or some other combination.
Yeah. Well, so if we said, I mean, what's a number that we feel comfortable with? 12 students
Sure.
with 8
Yeah.
drumming sessions? I mean, I don't know. I'm just throwing some numbers out there.
10, make it even.
So 10, so that needs to be 10 students with up to 8 sessions.
Sounds good.
Yep. Okay, so that's approved with that provision. Up to, this says up to 10 drumming. Okay, you're saying to have the minimum be 8, up to 8 sessions. Okay.
So it's not up to 8, but a minimum of 8 drumming sessions.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So you're keeping track of this? Susan?
I'm writing it down too.
Okay, good. All right.
Do we want to go through them in order then and just, if we have any, if we have
Yeah.
any
You want-
modifications?
You want to do that? Start at 1?
Yep.
Mary
So
Lyman.
that's the Mary Lyman.
Yep.
We're good
That's
with
the
that
whole
one.
second grade, so there's no requirement for minimum on that one.
Yep,
Good for that one.
good on that one. I think we hold to see if Rhonda gets any information back from Steve. She
It just
texted him.
came in.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't have specifics, but in the past, Bo has worked with each class K4 for a week with Steve during his PE classes.
Each class for a week. with
So
PE
if it's in that model, it's going to be more than 5 to 15 kids.
Right. And so that's if you look at it a week per grade, that's 5 weeks, not necessarily over 5 weeks, but it's
Right.
So, and PE, all the kids have PE, what, twice a week?
Yeah, for those grades, yep. K2 has it for 30 minutes and 3-4, I think, has it for 40 minutes.
So that's 10 individual sessions at $3,000.
Per week though, right?
Well, I mean,
No,
Because it goes for 2 weeks. It goes 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Then you'd have the weekend 13, 14. Then it would go 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So two full school
He's
weeks.
looking at 2 weeks,
well, but
2 school weeks.
didn't he just say, is Bo working with one class? Each class gets a week worth of instruction from Bo. Is that the way you read that?
That's how I read it, but
Okay, so that means there's 5 grades and each grade is having 2 sessions. So that's a total of 10 sessions with Bo. So that's $300 a session, which, gosh, that seems kind of high, doesn't it?
well, unless, I mean, it does say in the past he worked with each class for a week, but maybe Bo is looking at 2 weeks, for 4 sessions per class.
Can we ask for more information and
yeah, I don't,
bring this back?
I could try to call Bo right now.
Yeah, why not? I mean,
I'll mute myself and try to call him.
okay, I feel like we need more info.
Yep.
All right, so number 3 is basketry with Bob. So we're saying, do we want to put any kind of minimum participation on this?
I think it should be at least 5 kids or something.
Yep, okay. I'm good with that.
Yep.
for all 3 of these.
Yeah, I think all 3 of Bob's because they're all,
Well,
well,
maybe 4
Getting
for the woodworking.
yeah, the
Or-
woodworking drops down to 6, it says.
Okay,
All right, so minimum 5, minimum 5, minimum 4, and then we
Yep.
all approve those.
Yep.
and then Japan,
I think that one's good.
yep. And then
Yeah,
the
that's good money.
drama club,
Yep.
yep.
I don't think she's ever gotten 20 kids, but
I think she close this year, actually. She had a
Yeah?
ton.
yeah.
And then she pulled a bunch of people in toward the end for more tech and more, stand-ins, and she got
Mhm.
a lot of new enthusiasm, which was exciting.
Cool.
So then there's the theater outreach education. That's the whole school.
Hmm.
Yep.
That's Rhonda's one, so that sounds good because it's the whole school.
Yep.
The class trip,
Yeah.
Same as it ever was.
yep.
But my
Great.
kid got screwed.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, although he's gonna get a nice bag of $400
Yeah.
worth of goodies. Grit after school,
Yeah,
that's reasonable,
it's
yeah.
really
Yep.
inexpensive
Yep,
for that many kids.
Yep.
all right,
Mhm.
so Find the Groove was minimum of 10 kids.
Minimum of 10 kids, minimum of 8 sessions.
Yep, okay. Fairy Tale,
I would approve that one.
yep, that's the one with Shannon.
Sounds like fun.
Kindergarten Handworks, using our head, heart, and hands.
Yeah, and that's the whole kindergarten,
Yeah.
right?
Yep,
Mhm.
that was the one that, yep, we would have put into the budget if we could have. Visiting author and illustrator.
All right, this one, all that description of the vernal pools and everything, nowhere does it say it will take the kids to a vernal pool. I will request that they do that.
Funny.
They'll just show them the pictures, YouTube.
That's funny.
That's a good, that's
So, yeah, that's a good one for Becky.
45 kids.
All right, and then the educational enrichment programming. Whole school again.
Yep.
So, all right.
What is that? We've done that one before? Anybody seen it?
Go, right?
I don't know.
Or-
Oh, well, it says he did it in 2000.
Yeah, I think they did it 2 years ago and then it fell through last year and
Oh, 2015, yeah, that. Oof.
oh, that's Rhonda, but
Okay.
So, I mean, are we okay to approve 26,425 and with, the provision that if we find the answers we're looking for?
Well, I think Rhonda's talking to Bo right now, probably.
Okay.
She was.
Yeah, it looks like she is.
I was looking at my sheet and not at you all, so. I missed it. Why I'm looking like this.
I know, that's the thing. It's like you forget that you just kind of, I don't like being on the screen.
This is my spreadsheet face.
it's really convenient to have it on YouTube though. When I missed the last AOS meeting and I was
It's
like,
on
"Uh-oh,
YouTube?
what? I forgot it. And I went and I watched it. So
Thank
Oh,
you for
God.
reminding me that my hair lip is going to be on YouTube now.
Lovely.
Okay.
Lovely.
Well,
okay, here's a fun game to play. All right. All right. Everybody point to Rhonda where she is from you on the screen.
Down.
When kicking.
Okay,
I know.
all right, point to John Bench.
This is
Point to Susan.
this is too funny. I can get the.
Point to Ingrid.
I can't make my finger do that.
Oh, that's funny because I'm up in the top right
Yeah, me too.
on my screen.
I think it always puts you in the top right or something.
Oh, it does.
I think so. I feel like when
I
I'm in
gotta
the big
say,
ones, I'm always the second person.
I much prefer the Zoom meetings to a Google Meet.
Yeah, I like the layout, but I'm been tasked with trying to find the best video conferencing at this point. And Zoom, I mean, Josh was just telling me about a better way to set it up, but my sister was Zoom bombed last week on a parent meeting and she cannot unsee what she saw. And she is,
Oh my God.
nope, not getting on that anytime soon. So I just, thank goodness there were no kids in crazy.
Well, I guess ours are protected by having that keeper letting us in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What'd you find out, Rhonda?
I found out that that particular one is Bo and Melanie working together, Melanie providing movement and Bo providing drums. It would be during PE class for 2 weeks. Kindergarten, I double checked the schedule. They meet 3 times a week for 30 minutes and 3-4 meets twice a week for 45 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So it's 90 minutes per week per grade.
Yeah. So it's really 20 plus sessions that they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that seems reasonable then.
Okay.
Cool.
All righty. So what is that totaled? 29,425. So
Yeah.
I would move that we fund the 2020-2021 CJ grant requests in the amount of $29,425 with some of the I don't want to call them restrictions, but caveats that we outlined, that will be
Provisions.
outlined.
Minimum attendance.
So,
Second.
So that was Ingrid that moved it. Susan seconded it.
All right. Any discussion? Susan,
Approved.
John,
Approved.
Ingrid,
Approved.
I approve as well.
It's the first CJ meeting I haven't had to attack a calculator in like 6 or 7 years.
So John, do you have everything you need relative to minimums and all that stuff?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
John, do you mind emailing me those minimums? Because I
Will
need
do.
to put out, send
Yeah.
letters out to these people, letting them know.
Will do.
Thank you.
Do we have any other business?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I do, and it's fun, hopefully, but I just realized that this is being broadcast, and it's about, I mean, Robin and Bob are retiring, and this is their ending, and I've been so impressed with my kids' teachers this time. I know lots of people have been, but especially the two of them. I walk by and just witnessing them engaging the kids in ways I wouldn't have come up with, or, I really feel like they're really excelling in this. It's really impressing me. And on top of that, their collective, however many years of teaching is coming to an end this way. So I just hope that we are doing something that we can,
Yeah, we should do something to commemorate this time, and maybe we want to, I don't know, circulate an email so it's not broadcast live right now as to what that might be.
I guess. Well, I know I was thinking, of course, but I also I want to make sure we're following in guidelines of doing business, not via
Right.
email. So, yeah.
I think teacher recognition can be offline.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't think we need to broadcast.
Fair enough.
I think Rhonda's probably pretty good at that. by
Yeah.
now. She's got that covered.
Yeah.
What a crazy year, I tell you.
Uh,
All right. Any
Yeah.
other business?
Trying to think if there's anything else in the selectmen meeting that touched on us. No, just we may have a fight on our hands next year when we're done paying our bond, and we got a lot of big gets coming up that they have to pay for, and we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, but there's a lot of items that the school needs done that we've put off so that it hasn't been hard on taxpayers. And I think,
Yep.
one of the things that we can continue to be proud about is the state of our facility. We are not in the situation that Bar Harbor's in. And in theory, you're gonna, if I'm reelected, you're gonna nominate somebody to fill the remainder of my term next spring, right, guys?
Maybe, I don't know.
What? You're breaking up.
There was another item that came up because it relates to us, because the school buses, the new maintenance building. There's a lot of sticker shock, but it did move to accept the lowest bid. The vote was 3-2. And if it fails on the floor, a town meeting, we'll have to anticipate our buses not being undercover because are going to condemn the current building.
So, John, I just want to make sure that what I read in the article was accurate in the paper. Now, isn't the project like north of $1 million, like 1.2 or something like that?
No, it's it's there. Yeah, but I don't remember what the exact number was, but yes.
Okay, so something around that, but in
Yep.
the paper, it read as if the building itself is about 150,000 of that million. Is that accurate? Did they give
I
you
don't
that
think
kind of
so.
breakdown?
I don't think so. There's a lot of site work that's required. And I think you might say like the bare minimum might, the cost of building it, but then there's all these OSHA requirements and everything, all these systems that have to go into it that make it very expensive.
Did
Which
they
are-
discuss at all the fact that there's so much site work that needs to be done that maybe there's a better parcel of land to actually do this on?
That did come up. And that's part of the reason two people dissented voting in favor of it. But the town manager's response was basically find me a better parcel. And it doesn't really help us because you got all the salt and the sand and everything still has to stay at that other lot. And then you're going back and forth and
Well, but why would it have to, I mean, not that you know the answer to this, but why would all that stuff have to stay at that lot if you had a bigger lot that could house all of that?
basically because we've already polluted that lot and we'd have a hard time getting approval to pollute
To
another lot.
pollute another lot.
Yeah,
Great.
that salt isn't, DP doesn't really like big piles of salt.
Oh, but maybe on a different lot, you could actually proactively put something down so it wasn't contaminating things, right? A different receptacle or holder. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the counter argument was, let's get this over with, rates are really low and let's move forward, because we don't have a choice anyway.
Okay.
All right. Date and time or future, no, public comment. I don't.
Sorry, one last thing.
Oh, go ahead.
The building's gonna be condemned. Obviously, the new building won't be in place before next winter, so the buses will be outside next winter.
Mhm.
That's the other aspect of it. Regardless, whether or not it passes, plan on the buses being outside next year, Rhonda.
Mhm. It's a good thing it's not going to be a brand new bus then.
Yeah.
Okay. Public comment. I assume we didn't get any that came in.
No, but can you hear Olive snoring under the desk? That's my
Yeah,
favorite
some
word.
things to say. Future agenda items. So we'll wait to get the new budget from Nancy and see what that looks like. And then we will put together a meeting probably next week at some point so that we can vote on that and see about getting that to town meeting.
There'll also be teacher nominations.
Yeah, there's a couple other teacher nominations as well. All right,
And reminder, we have a high school board meeting on Monday.
Monday. Okay,
What time?
I think it's at 5,
okay.
but the agenda has gone out.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I just saw it. It's because we voted at the AOS. We don't have to vote locally on the end of the school year, do we?
Right.
No.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I think date and time and place of next meeting is still,
To be determined.
yeah, next week, I assume some point. So just keep an eye on your emails. All right, I think that's all we have.
All righty.
Thank you so much, everyone.
I need a
Thank you,
motion for
Rhonda.
adjournment.
Yes, we need a motion to adjourn and then
I'll
quit
move.
your meeting. Susan moves.
We
I'll
need a
second.
All right, yeah.
All in favor? Close your meeting. Thank you, guys.
Bye.